Previously on Higurashi When They Cry console arcs.
この男性のことでご存知のことがあったら教えてください。竜宮レナさんはじめ前原さんもお知り合いのはずですよね。
これ富武さん。
Why would this detective come all the way to ask me about Tomitaki-san? What was he trying to accomplish?
ちなみに彼、祭りの夜から失踪しています。
Like clockwork.
最後に会った時のことを聞かせてもらえませんかね。
祭りの夜に会ったのが最後ですけど。
それきり会ってないんですね。
ええ。
そうですか。
Mion was taken into police custody several times for engaging in anti-dam protest activities. It was among the village's earliest acts of rebellion against the dam, and Mion was a leading official in the orchestration of resistance activities. The resistance activities were organized by the Sonozaki family. I heard that gangsters and organized crime groups were involved. Even more surprisingly, she has essentially become the leader of the Sonozaki family. How far did the Sonozaki family's reach extend? Just listening to it had me shivering. Mion is the acting leader of the Sonozaki family. Mion is the ruler of this village. She wishes. That was the same Mion who warned me about the dangers of the Sonozaki family. But Mion herself sat at the top of the family. So, why? Why tell me that story at the library?
圭一君、大丈夫だよね。
The strength of her tone had me at a loss for words. Reina's eyes were piercing straight into my heart. What would happen if I betrayed their trust? That's what Reina's eyes were telling me.
ああ、大丈夫。
Then Reina turned her back once again and started heading home. After watching Reina completely disappear into the distance, I rushed into my house to escape.
もう一度、村の寄り合いで、圭一の名前が挙がったことはありませんのです。
Is that so?
だから、不安がる必要はゼロなのです。これでいいですか？
ありがとう。おかげで気が楽になった。
Rika Fruity told me I was safe, as the head of the Fruity family, and a member of the three families. If that's true, I should definitely be safe. However, something about Rika-chan still seemed unusual. Her words seemed sharper than usual, and more cold. Then Rika-chan seized the opportunity and spoke up in a terribly sullen voice.
そもそも圭一は、何をそんなに怖がっているのですか？変に不安がっているから、余計に犬さんを怒らせてしまうのですよ。ワン、ワンワン。
The curse of Orishiro-sama. Or rather, a series of deaths in Hinamizawa. The Sonozaki family. And their acting head, Mion Sonozaki. No. She's our good-natured club president. And a friend. Those pieces of the puzzles unconsciously came to mind. Nevertheless, I still couldn't get a grasp on the situation. What on earth is happening? Have I already gotten myself involved? And if so, is there anything I can do to escape? Or maybe it's all just in my head? No, too many bizarre events have already come to light. It's impossible to simply explain them as products of my own biased imagination.
夜分遅くにすみませんね。
いえ。で、何かあったんですか？
いえね、先ほど分かったことなんですが、実は園崎シオンが行方不明らしいんです。
Yeah, I'm really starting to think Shion is up to no good right now. And we were walking home with her earlier. Not good.
シオンが？
I squeezed the receiver in a panic.
シオンが行方不明ですって？
そうなんですよ。それも数日前から。それとね、実は姉のミオンも行方がわからないんですよ。
Yeah, this is definitely Shion that we're dealing with. Huh?
ミオンもですか？
After Shion, Mion disappeared too?
それにこういうの前にもありましてね。
Oh, you're definitely right about that.
前にも二人が行方不明になったんですか？
はい、そうなんです。あれは去年のことでした。
Last year? That recently?
王女のおばが殺された時も、あの二人が突然姿を消しました。
そんな。
It wasn't fear of thunder that denied me my sleep. However, it was indeed fear that kept me awake, so she was right in that regard. I was bombarded with sounds I shouldn't be able to hear, or other meaningless noises. Any small sound off in the distance would leave me terrified. It was a long, long night.
サトコ!
What did you dump on me?
ゲイツさんがそんな簡単に引っかかるなんて思ってなかったのでございますわ。どうせカースならばちょっとしたジョークで。
これのどこがジョークの範囲だ！
デッドストックの牛乳なんてデンジャラスなトラップ。
Oh God, Satoko, why?
本気で設置するわけがございませんでしょうが。
And so it continues. Greetings, my name's Neosekken, and welcome back to my Let's Play the Higurashi When They Cry console arcs. So I think we can all safely say at this point that keeping our noses clean of this town's affairs has well and truly gone out the window and into the deepest pit of hell, right? Especially since it looks to me like Shion has likely gone completely off the deep end, a la Chapter 2 and 4. In which case, it's clearly only a matter of time until one day we're blindfolded, and then we're strung up somewhere within the torture chamber of the bomb shelter and murdered for our troubles. If the events of this arc decide to play similarly to Chapter 2 and 4 respectively, but I have a feeling they're going to change things up somehow towards the end. How exactly, your guess is as good as mine. Only time will tell, as I'm quite fond of saying. So let's get this show on the road, shall we? Tokyo, at the end of the Showa era and on the dawn of Heisei. Goods, information, and even people have been continuing to modernize at an incredible rate. Even though the news swept all across Japan at the time, hardly anyone remembers the story from a rural town 10 years later. But there was still a man pursuing the past everyone else had forgotten. Wuxi stepped into this land for the first time in a while. These days, Wuxi was suffering remarkable physical decline. Moving his body, even for a short time, put a strain on his body that he had to endure. Might want to change the second body to himself or something. Get slightly better grammar. But he did pick up dancing after retirement, and was still at it. The silver-gray dancing style has gained a lot of traction recently for not relying heavily on physical fitness. Wuxi looked around as he entered the lobby, searching for the man he intended to meet. The airport interior looked larger and cleaner than how Wuxi remembered it. Are you meeting who I think you're meeting? He looked left and right, up and down, but none of it looked familiar. Once he started feeling a bit uneasy, he heard a familiar voice calling out to him. Yeah, it
Boy-san.
is.
大石さん。
な赤坂さん
Maybe this is how we're gonna change things up, by having Super Agent Man coming in to the rescue at the last minute. Only for us all to promptly die shortly thereafter on account of the disaster. I'm feeling awfully cynical today, as you can probably tell. A man named Akasaka was waving at Ushi. He was a tall, plainclothes police investigator, and a bit too old to be called a young man.
どうも、お久しぶりです。
迷子になるところでしたよ。何年ぶりですかね。
Ushi vigorously slapped Akasaka on the shoulder, delighted to see him again.
おお、トレーニングは欠かしていないようですね。いい筋肉がついてますよ。
今では昔のような不覚は取りません。
Akasaka sounded embarrassed as he said that.
それにますますいい顔つきになりましたね。
そうですか？おだてても何も出ませんよ。
いやいや、本当に現役の捜査官然とした立派な顔つきですよ。
大石さんはまたスマートになりましたよね。相変わらず社交ダンスですか？
これがね、年を関係なく続けられるもんでしてね。
それはいい趣味と出会いましたね。
しかもおかげさまでモテモテ。赤坂さんもそろそろ始められるといいですよ。
I can't picture this man dancing like that.
いや、僕はリズム感ないですから。
そこを頑張りましょうよ。そうすればモテモテ。
After their brief reunion, the two men hopped in Akasaka's car and headed toward their destination. After a 30-minute drive from the airport to Akasaka's car, they slipped into the parking lot of a general hospital. The sky was beginning to clear up. The white walls of the hospital exterior reflected the shining sun. A calm afternoon breeze gently rocked the curtains in the hospital room. A woman wearing solid white pajamas sat on the bed, looking out the window. The wind blowing through her hair wasn't strong enough to reveal her face, though. Her long hair kept it hidden. And she must not get out much, since her skin looked as pale as her pajamas in the hospital curtains. Akasaka's wife, right? Ushi may not have noticed it himself, but there was a slight twitch in his leg while he waited at the receptionist's desk. Ushi himself couldn't possibly put it into words, but the anticipation, the fear, and the other emotions he couldn't express any other way were being conveyed through the trembling in his body. Akasaka was standing next to him, feeling much the same way. Akasaka had to wipe away his sweat several times as he waited in the air-conditioned waiting room. In just a few minutes, a nurse approached the two of them. They both followed the nurse's lead without saying a word. The two men that seemed out of place in a hospital began feeling even more out of place as they stepped inside the private hospital room. A retired detective and an active Metropolitan Police investigator. The name of the patient in the hospital room was Mion Sonozaki. I was dead wrong about who this was going to be. Mion was a survivor of the disaster that struck Hinamizawa Village 10 years ago. So the disaster already happened in this arc. By a stroke of luck, she was found locked in the basement of the Sonozaki family home. Unfortunately, Mion Sonozaki took a heavy blow to the head. Oof. As a result, she lost all memory of the events immediately before and after her confinement.
園崎さん、またお客さんがお見えになりましたよ。
There was no reaction, as if she didn't hear anything at all. However, there was nothing wrong with her hearing.
何度いらっしゃっても同じですよ、刑事さん。
The nurse sounded disappointed as she told the two men the patient was reacting like usual. The two men had already been briefed on Mion Sonozaki's condition when they inquired with the hospital about it earlier. The hospital had explicitly told them there's no point in coming here. This detective retired without ever finding the answer to the series of murders alleged to be the curse of Orishiro-sama that afflicted Hinamizawa 10 years ago. And this Metropolitan Police investigator was involved in one of these incidents while investigating Hinamizawa 15 years ago. Even after the statute of limitations of the case expired, the two of them couldn't stop visiting Mion Sonozaki. It happened 10 years ago in Hinamizawa village, near the end of June 1983. Volcanic gas emerged from Onigafuchi Swamp and smothered Hinamizawa village. That's what they want you to think. The catastrophe struck in the middle of the night and annihilated the entire village overnight. Panic about volcanic gas swept through the entire country as people overreacted to unsubstantiated reports. And the Hinamizawa region was completely quarantined immediately afterwards. The series of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa, the curse of Orishiro-sama, ended with an unexpected catastrophe. All entry into Hinamizawa was strictly forbidden after the disaster, and naturally that included Ushi and Akasaka. The curtain was forcibly closed on the case they were investigating. The catastrophe claimed the lives of over 12,000 people, and over 20 more are still missing. And there was a single survivor. That survivor was Mion Sonozaki. The disaster wiped out everyone other than Mion Sonozaki. So why did she alone survive? That's what I'd like to know. What happened to Mion Sonozaki between the day of Watanagashi and her disappearance? There were a lot of questions Ushi and Akasaka wanted to ask.
ミオンさん、お久しぶりです。大石です。覚えていらっしゃいませんか。ほら、園崎家に散々いじめられてた沖宮の刑事ですよ。園崎さん、おつらいとは思います。しかし、あなたにしか語れないんです。園崎さん、あなたにしか語れないんです。Hinamizawaについては。
Mion said nothing in response, but her body did move faintly when he said the word Hinamizawa. Then she slowly turned her body away from the window and towards the room. Her movement was awkward, like an electric doll that was suddenly turned on. And then her unfocused eyes pointed toward the two men. Her face was difficult to make out thanks to her long flowing hair. But between the strands of her hair, it was possible to see the blank look in her eyes. As everyone in the area impatiently waited for Mion to say something, she reached out and grabbed something by her bedside. A deck of playing cards. From the club, I assume. The nurse's shoulders immediately began to droop, as if she'd realized something. Unable to comprehend the situation, Ushi and Akasaka turned to face one another.
みんな、いい？始めるよ。
Mion definitely said that, as she peered around with the vacant look in her eyes. Mion definitely said everyone. The only people here right now were Ushi, Akasaka, and the nurse. However, it was quite obvious that she wasn't referring to the people in the room when she said everyone. The everyone that Mion was speaking to were nowhere to be seen. Mion started skillfully shuffling the cards. Her hands looked completely relaxed as they moved. She began dealing out the cards she had shuffled on the bed. Of course, nobody was there to receive these pile of cards. Mion began talking to the invisible everyone while continuing to play cards. Ushi was able to make out several familiar names.
大石さん、これは。
Ushi closed his eyes and listened to Mion's voice.
どうやら園崎美音にとって事件以来完全に時が止まっているようです。
事件以来ずっと。じゃあ記憶は。
Akasaka's shoulders drooped and he tightly clenched his fists. Mion simply continued playing cards. To anyone who saw her, she would appear to only be a high school student. Mion's internal clock had truly stopped.
So.
Ushi suddenly approached Mion and shouted into her ear.
園崎さん、園崎美音さん。
Mion slowly turned toward Ushi.
我々はひなみ沢での事件の真相を暴くため美音さんの証言が必要なんです。
Mion slowly brushed away the hair that was covering most of her face. Her entire face was as white as porcelain. And it was the face of the girl from 10 years ago, who seemed to reject the past 10 years. Ushi suddenly caught his breath.
美音さんの証言が必要なんです。お仲間の無念を晴らすためにも目を覚ましてください。
Mion gazed forward intently, but her eyes still looked vacant. Ushi gazed deep into her eyes, looking for an answer. Then Mion very slowly began to open her mouth.
罰ゲームなのかな。教えてよ。ねえ、ケイちゃん。
New tips unlocked. Great disaster, aftermath, and... Well... I didn't realize that when I last left off the episode, I was this close to a new checkpoint. Well, let's see what these tips are. This better not be another tip tease like last time, otherwise I'm gonna be mad. Great disaster. Early morning, June 22nd, 1983. Word of the disaster in Hinamizawa district of Shishibone City quickly spread. Volcanic gas, including hydrogen sulfide and carbon dioxide, was released from the Onikafuchi swamp, a major water source in the Hinamizawa area, and the gas covered the entire village. The number of victims exceeds 1,200. Another 20 are still missing. Approximately 600,000 people were evacuated from the surrounding municipalities as a result of the disaster. Subsequent investigation revealed a magma reservoir in a hot spring just beneath the Onikafuchi swamp. Investigators concluded that gas erupting from that source was the cause of the disaster. Additionally, local tradition motivated people to declare the disaster in Hinamizawa the work of a curse, which caused a large uproar and resulted in confusion early in the investigation. Local customs in Hinamizawa predicted that the curse would release miasma that would annihilate the village. Scholars point out that a similar disaster may have occurred in the past and formed the original basis for this custom. A small number of radical magazines suggested that the disaster was an extension of the series of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa over the past several years, only adding fire to the curse of Orishiro-sama theory. Well, they're not wrong. Additionally, relatives of Hinamizawa villagers and former residents who avoided the disaster were hospitalized one after another, complaining of poor physical health. A portion of them dying of unknown illness caused further panic. Moreover, there were several reports of people who claimed to be possessed by the curse of Orishiro-sama before committing suicide in bizarre manners. The shocking news spread across the entire country in a flash. Delusions and fear poisonous gas that can silently kill people in the middle of the night ran through all of Japan, resulting in cases of insomnia, respiratory issues, headaches, vertigo, and more. There were also reports of people carrying out eccentric behavior while alleging to be possessed. Hinamizawa syndrome definitely did a number in these people. Most of these were thought to be the result of the extreme media coverage. But mental illness caused by the Great Hinamizawa disaster later came to be known as Hinamizawa syndrome. The Hinamizawa district that all these rumors originate from is currently blockaded, and flying over the region is strictly prohibited. Although the blockade was lifted at one point due to reduced gas levels, another ejection of gas was detected later that year, and the surrounding area was blockaded once again. They say within the grounds is a village left to decay, leaving all traces of life behind. The sole survivor is a female student who lived in Hinamizawa village, Mion Sonozaki-san. At the time of her rescue, she was in physical deterioration and a mental daze, symptoms of dehydration. Thanks to desperate paramedical activity, her life was spared. She is currently hospitalized in a general hospital within the prefecture. Daily periodicals have been pushing to interview her, but all requests have been denied. The incredible mental shock she suffered left her with no memory of the time before and after the incident, and she has a high risk of regressing even further. The current situation is so severe, she can't even respond to police interrogation. It honestly is interesting to me that Mion is the survivor this time around instead of Keiichi. Really wonder how that happened. Tarayamawashi alternative ending. Read only after completing Tsukiotoshi. Okay, I guess I will do just that. Tarayamawashi all cast review session. Guess I should probably leave that alone too. Let's continue. Wait a minute. It's over? Oh my god, I was that close to ending the arc? Son of a bitch. Wish I continued on longer then. Well then, I guess we're going to be starting a new console arc today. It's fine by me. I believe next on our list is Tsukiotoshi. This chapter is an alternate take on Tatarigoroshi. It can be read after completion of Chapter 5, Miyagishi. Keiichi and friends work together to help Satoko after her uncle returns to Hinamizawa once again. You gotta be shitting me. I gotta go through that horrible crap again. Alright. Why don't we just...
幸せになるために彼らは命を懸けて努力した。お互いがお互いを分かり合い、固い信頼で結びついていたはずだった。優しさ、思いやり、信頼、愛情。そんな思いが裏返って、白から黒へと変わっていった時、絆は脆くも崩れ去って、思いもしなかった悪夢が彼らを包み込んで、心の闇をさらけ出していく。突き落とし。誰も憎んでいたわけじゃなかった。ただほんの少しの誤解が全てを変えてしまった。
Committing a crime isn't scary. The scary thing is admitting it. Being punished isn't scary. The scary thing is knowing the pain of it. Neither crime nor punishment will disappear from this world, because humans are unable to know the future. Hello, Federica. How many days has this gone on? Satoko's seat was empty again today. We're just jumping right into the misery train today, aren't we? As we sat near Satoko's seat, we couldn't help but look in its direction. Nevertheless, we all implicitly continued carrying on like everything was normal. Of course, it's no big deal. I'm sure she just has a cold. Satoko will return tomorrow and show us her usual innocent smile. Yet I couldn't help but feel a lingering unease pulling in the bottom of my heart. Something was going on with Satoko. There was no doubt about it. In that case, sitting idly by with our hands behind our backs won't accomplish anything, right? Right! Everyone else was probably thinking the same thing, looking down at Satoko's empty seat, and sighing profusely. The stagnant atmosphere was becoming unbearable.
サトコは今日も休みなのか?
Rika-chan bit her lip and turned her eyes downward as she nodded to me. A response she'd already repeated several times now.
リカちゃん、知ってるなら教えてくれ。サトコは今どうしてるんだ？こんなに休んで一体何があったんだ？
The world's biggest asshole, that's what.
もうどうしようもないのです。
Can't be helped? These words seem to negate the past, the present, and the future. All of it. More than anything, I was amazed to hear those words straight from the mouth of Rika-chan, who was closer to Satoko than anyone else.
どうしようもないって。それはどういう意味だ？
Rika-chan remained silent and avoided answering my question. Rika-chan was definitely taking this the hardest. Deep down, I understood that. But with all the blood rushing through my head, calm, rational decision-making was no longer possible.
訳を教えてくれ。結果だけ言われても俺は納得できないぞ。リカちゃん、何か知ってるんだろ？なって。
As my words grew more and more piercing, Rika-chan's shoulders tensed as though in fear. Still, she wouldn't look me in the eyes. With a look like she was giving up, she closed her mouth. I quickly dialed back the pressure, and regained my composure, with an ache in my chest.
ごめん、リカちゃん。俺、興奮しすぎた。
I apologize sincerely. I wasn't alone here. Rika-chan felt the same way. Thinking about it that way, I couldn't help but feel embarrassed and apologize once more.
圭一は悪くないのです。謝る必要はないのです。
Rika-chan briefly shook her head, then looked down with a shadow hanging over her eyes. Once again, the classroom was enveloped in deep silence. Because the person who was supposed to be here wasn't here. Everyone was upset by Satoko's sudden, inexplicable absence. I was surprised myself to realize how much Satoko's absence had shaken my heart. And then it inevitably reminded me of how helpless I am, how insignificant. I'm just a common student, a powerless kid.
ひょっとして。
Suddenly the silence was broken. Reina's eyes were open wide, like she had just thought of something.
さとこちゃんのおじさんが帰ってきたんじゃ。
Uncle? After that one unexpected word, Rika-chan looked down, and her shoulders began to tremble. Nevertheless, Reina moved in closer and crouched down to look her in the eyes. I recognized that she was doing this gesture to alleviate Rika-chan's tension.
さとこちゃんのおじさん帰ってきたのかな
But Rika-chan remained silent, neither confirming nor denying anything. When Reina noticed that reaction, she barely managed to give Rika-chan a smile, but there was still a precarious light in her eyes.
レナ、それどういうことだよ。おじさんって何なんだよ。
Reina quietly looked back toward Rika-chan. Nevertheless, she remained silent. When Reina saw that reaction, she looked down and quietly began to speak.
3年前のことだよ。さとこちゃんの両親が事故で亡くなった後、おじ夫婦が2人の保護者になったの。そしてそのままさとこちゃんの家に住むようになった。
It was an incredible story, far beyond anything I could imagine. Satoko's aunt and uncle became her guardians and took over her house at the same time. Satoko and Satoshi were relegated to a tiny room and forced to spend their days in terrible living conditions. Their aunt and uncle could never stop arguing with each other, and they would often vent their frustrations by taking it out on Satoko. What form did that take? Reina went quiet, so I was left to my imagination. So Satoko was cornered, both physically and mentally. However, her aunt was murdered and Satoshi went missing last year on the night of Watanagashi. Satoko's uncle fled the town immediately afterwards, fearing the curse of Arishiro-sama. Though Satoko had been feeling lonely ever since, living a peaceful life with Rika-chan has helped her heal those wounds. However,
のこのこ帰ってきたんだ。あの男は、北条哲平という男は本当に乱暴でガサツでひどいやつ。強い者には媚びへつらって弱い者で憂さ晴らし。思い出すだけでヘドが出そう。
I agree. Let's set his hair on fire. Those harsh words didn't sound like Reina. Satoko's uncle must have truly been horrendous. You have no idea. Yet.
きっとまた懲りずにさとこちゃんをこき使って、そして
今の話本当なのか？だったら早く助けないと。このままじゃ聡子は。
わかってる。でもそう簡単にはいかないんだよね、みーちゃん。
After saying that, Reina looked back with a look of disgust on her face. Mion had been standing there silently the whole time. She fumbled to maintain her composure after suddenly hearing her name.
やるだけ無駄、そう思ってるんだよね、みーちゃんは。
そこまでは思ってないけど、状況は優しくないよ。
The situation was so simple. I didn't understand what she was getting at, so I began to open my mouth. But just then, Reina cut in with an explanation.
去年も同じことがあってね。おじさん夫婦が聡子ちゃんにひどいことしてるってみんなで沖宮の生活相談所に訴えたの。でも聡子ちゃん自身が何もされてないって言い張ってうやむやになって、それから二人の嫌がらせは逆にエスカレートしちゃったの。
The previous intervention only resulted in even more cruelty. Indeed, if that was how it happened, I could understand why they were hesitant to step in again. Then what? What else can we do? Round up a posse, that's what. Chapter 8 showed us how to do that.
私たちがジタバタしたからって何も変えられないってことだよ。悲しいけどさ。
でもサトシ君は変えようとした。
After that one word from Reina, silence once again swallowed the classroom. Then, all at once, everyone turned to her. Holding their breath, they gazed at her like she had violated a sacred rule.
だからサトシ君は。
Reina's words were interrupted by a sound of a fist violently slamming down on a desk. It's like
そ
I
の
thought
話
she'd
は
hit
やめろっ
her.
て前にも言ったでしょ。
Reina and Mion were the best of friends, but the two of them were staring each other down in a fit of rage. Strange. Something... No, everything seems completely out of place here, like it's seen from another world. Until now, I believed that we were all the best of friends. You are? Ordinarily, Mion would be the one taking the initiative, with Reina being supportive. But now, the scene before my eyes it felt completely the opposite. What on earth? Feels like the gears are out of alignment. I've never seen this before, and I never thought I'd see them act this way. It filled my heart with disappointment and unease. Even so, this was no time to hold back. This was a serious problem, and would only get worse.
ここで言い合いしてる場合じゃないだろう。なんとかして聡子を救い出す方法を考えないと。
でもどうやって？一度失敗してるんだよ。子供の私たちに何ができるっていうの、ケイちゃん。
俺たちにだって何かできることはあるはずだ。みんなで考えを出し合えばきっと。
Well, we could either A, organize a posse, or B, kill the dragon called Tepe. But since I'm quite certain that's not what's going to happen, option A I mean, I'm pretty certain that option B is what we're going to go for. In which case, I suggest you all start by setting his hair on fire. Reina said that they appealed to the Child Consultation Center last year, but the center decided that their family problems should be settled within the family. So in the end, nothing came of it. Being as obstructive as ever, I see. Damn bureaucrats. Reina said that they appealed to the Child Consultation Center. Oh wait a minute. I think well, whatever, you guys can read the last line here. Total strangers are really limited in what they can do for us. In fact, there was a possibility that meaningless, self-righteous behavior would only exacerbate Satoko's suffering. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that's the only option that this particular arc is going to leave us, so let's hop onto it and get it over with, shall we? In that case, instead of appealing to the Child Consultation Center, it would be more effective for us to do something else for Satoko.
そうだ
There was an organization more powerful than the Child Consultation Center. A single group capable of wielding all the power in Hinamizawa. Yes. Sonozaki family. No. Not this time. Surely something could be accomplished by harnessing the power of the three families leading the village.
ミオお前そのザッケの次期当主なんだろだったら有力者に頼んでサトコを救い出してくれよ
何言ってるのケイちゃん次期当主だからってそんなこと簡単にできるわけないでしょ
どうしてだよ役所とかでもそのザッケの鶴の一声で動くんだろだったらサトコを一人助けるなんて簡単なことじゃないのか
だから無理なことは無理無茶言って困らせないでよ
Mion's words left me utterly helpless, as if she was completely dismissing me. Her cold attitude only made me feel more uncomfortable. Impossible. Absurd. How could she decide that right from the beginning? Besides, at times like this, isn't Mion usually the one to push us forward?
ミオお前さっきからどっちの味方なんだよ
どっちって
お前がその気になって動けば御三家だってどうにでもなるんじゃないのか村の誰かを守るためなら全員で戦うのがひなみ沢じゃなかったのか
Mion wore a grim expression as she let out a hoarse moan. Yeah, I understand. It's frustrating to be on the receiving end of a tirade like this, isn't it? But that submissive attitude touched a nerve, so I pushed even harder.
ただ黙って見てるだけはねえだろ現にサトコは傷ついてるんだぞ
だけど前はサトコ自身が拒絶した否定したんだよ今回だってまた同じことの繰り返しに決まってる
繰り返さないためにも何とかしようよこのままじゃサトコちゃん本当に危険だよ
説得するしかないのかサトコ
あのね決定を下すのは私たちじゃないいろんな人のいろんな意見があっていろんな見方があるんだよケイちゃん事の深刻さ分かってるこれって一人の人間の人生に関わる重大なことなんだよ
分かってないのはミオンの方だろ
じゃああんたは承知の上かよ前原圭一
Mion suddenly looked up. She looked straight into my eyes, like she was staring down an enemy.
は本当はケイちゃんヒーロー気取って楽しんでるだけじゃないのレナは心優しい魔法使いバッカみたいあんたたちこそ偽善者だよ
ひどいよみーちゃん
This feels like Shion is speaking to us right now. Are you actually Mion or Shion? Just out of interest.
ひどい私が非道だってんならあんたたちは下道だよごたごたごたく並べるばっか何かあったら園崎って園崎は魔法使いか神様かそのくせ自分たちは言うだけで自分の手は汚さないつもりなんでしょ卑怯なくせに私に説教するな都合のいい時だけ園崎の名前に頼ってもうたくさんもういい加減にしてよ
ミオン
Well, I guess that answers that question. Suddenly, the classroom door slid open. Shion was standing in the doorway. Her face looked pale, and she seemed visibly exhausted for some reason.
非道ですかそれどころじゃないですねそんなんじゃ足りないこの人にはだって お姉は鬼なんでしょ。つま先からてっぺんまで血の一滴一滴までね。
You're not helping things, Shion.
シオン、お前なんでここに。
Slam. Shion's violently slammed the door and threw a glare in Mion's direction.
ちょっとね、聡子のことでお姉に相談をって思いましたけど、どうやら無駄みたいですね。
I'm kind of surprised you want to help her.
聡子のご両親、つまり北条家がダム誘致賛成派だったことはご存知ですよね。
なんとなくだけど、うん。
当時北条家以外のほぼ全員がダムに断固反対していた。彼らにとって北条家は裏切り者に過ぎません。特に園崎家にとってはね。北条家は四面楚歌でした。当初は交流断絶くらいの報復だったはずが、だんだんエスカレートして完全な無視と冷遇へと様変わりしていきました。事情は今でも変わりません。だからひなみ沢の人間は北条家のいざこざに口を出したりしない。もちろん聡子がどうなろうとね。特に園崎家はそういう態度なんですよね。
でもダムに賛成してたのは聡子の両親だろ。だったら聡子には関係ないじゃないか。
However, Shion only responded to my rebuttal with a commiserating smile. Then,
ここはひなみ沢なんですよ。
that one sentence dismissed my ideals as a shallow construct, and nothing more than an empty fantasy. Yes, this is Hinamizawa. Everything I've come to believe as common sense doesn't apply here. This village has a power strong enough to make the entire village believe crows are white from the bottom of their hearts. In other words, if the Sonozaki family refuses to alter their position, nothing will change.
私も園崎本家とかに掛け合ってみたんですけどね、全然ダメ。まあ八方塞がりってやつですよ。
After those harsh words, Shion laughed helplessly. Even so, I could gather from her exhausted expression that she did her best and fought as long as she could. Shion was always fighting in secret, all on her own, never complained to anyone. How would you know? I felt ashamed and anxious about my inability to do anything.
そんなこと言うためにわざわざここまで来たの。お疲れ様だったね、シオン。お姉はずっとこのことから目を背けてきた。だから私が言ってあげたんじゃないですか。言い終わった？なら早く帰りなよ、シオン。ここにはあんたの席なんてない。お姉は育児なしですね、ほんと。ばあさんのお許しが出なきゃ何一つ言えない。何一つできない。臆病者の負け犬です。シオン、あんたにそこまで言う資格はないよ。よくも私にそんなことが言えたもんだね。
Then, Mion clenched her fists as she stared Shion down.
忘れたとは言わせないよ、シオン。私が今までどんな気持ちで生きてきたか。シオン、あんたは知ってるでしょ。そんなの知らない。だって私はミオンじゃない。寺に放り込まれた方のシオンですものね。シオン、あんた。だけどこれだけは言えます。もしも私がお姉だったら黙っていない。仲間の窮地を知りながら見て見ぬふりなんてことは絶対しない。シオン、次期当主、聞いて呆れますね。園崎家だけじゃない、ひなみ沢全体にものすごい影響力を持ちながら何もしないんじゃ。当主なんてただのお飾りってことです。
Shion's scathing remarks left Mion speechless. And as I listened to Shion's attacks, I felt her criticisms were probably valid.
あれ？何も言い返せない？ひょっとして泣いてます？ざまあないですね、お姉。 園崎の次期ご当主様はこの程度でメソメソしちゃう臆病なお飾りさんなんですか？
Shion's dry laughter echoed throughout the classroom. Everyone fell silent after that display of blind force. Then, after looking around the classroom, she continued venting her frustrations.
そうですよね。どうせあなたたちにとっては人事ですし、だからそうやって同情したふりして偽善者気取って全部ふりお芝居なんでしょ。そうやっていつまでもうじうじとやってればいいのです。とりあえずかわいそうかわいそうって口だけで念仏みたいに唱えてれば満足でしょうよ。
After saying that in a gruff voice, Shion decided she didn't want to waste any more time and began to make her way out of the classroom. Yes, it is I, Kei-chan. How do you do? I immediately tried to stop her, so I stretched my hand out toward her shoulder. But she suddenly turned back, and my hand made contact with Shion's cheek. Well, for a bonehead like him, I could easily see him mistaking someone's cheek for their shoulder. The combination of movements caused my hand to slap her.
ひどい。
悪い。大丈夫か？
こんなお姉の肩なんか持って。
After saying that, Shion rushed out of the room without waiting for a response.
待てって、勘違いするな、シオン。
Too late, buddy. I rushed out after her. Then, I moved in front of Shion and stretched out my hands to block her path. Shion lightly clicked her tongue, then changed directions and opened the window. She then placed her hand on the window frame and jumped out of the arch side.
おい、シオン！
I jumped out the window to chase after her. Shion continued desperately trying to run away. Then, crossing the schoolyard at incredible speed, we both made our way toward the school gate.
もうついてこないで。ケイちゃんなんか。
だから待ってくれって。少しだけでいいから俺の話を聞いてくれ。
聞いても無駄です。ケイちゃんもお姉と同じなんです。
俺はサトコを助けるつもりだ。どんな手を使ってでも絶対助ける。
口先だけなら何とでも言えますよ。本心はどうだか。
口先なんかじゃねえ。お前が俺の本当の心ってやつを見たいって言うならこの場で心臓を引きずり出してやるさ。
After that declaration, Shion finally began to slow down. Sensing the opportunity, I desperately pumped my arms and kicked up my feet. Then, I somehow managed to catch up and reach out to grab Shion's right hand. After that move, she finally came to a halt.
ケイちゃん、今の言葉本当ですか？
Shion's voice was hoarse from heavy breathing. I silently responded with a forceful nod.
じゃあ見せてください。ケイちゃんの心臓、私見てみたいです。
Well, I don't have a knife handy on me right now, but the second I do...
それは
I couldn't believe my ears. I thought she was joking for a moment there, but Shion turned to me with cold eyes and a blank expression.
お前マジに言ってるのか？
やっぱり口先だけですね。
違うって。それくらい真剣だってことを伝えたかったんだ俺は。
どいつもこいつも口先だけのざれ言ばっかり。嘘しかつけないのならいっそ永遠に黙って何も喋るな。
After glaring at me with hatred in her eyes, Shion quickly turned her back and headed out the school gate. Seeing her from behind, it was a clear refusal. I had nothing left to say to her, so I couldn't do anything to stop her. But as I surveyed my surroundings, I noticed something off in the Was I unprepared? Were my words nothing but lies? Are you going to accept that, Keiichi Maebara? No excuses. I'm genuinely concerned about Satoko. I'll do anything to help her. Then, in that case...
おい、シオン。
え？
I firmly clenched my fists, then dashed over to that something I noticed on the ground by the storehouse. Shion turned back with a look of astonishment. She couldn't comprehend my sudden behavior. Please don't tell me it's the baseball bat. No, wait. No. It's in Satoshi's locker, that's right. I picked it up. A large pair of gardening shears. Oh, Jesus Christ, he's about to go scissor man on him. Then I took a deep breath and held the blades over my chest. The two dark blades were dull and covered in rust, and they eerily glistened in the bright sunlight.
ケイちゃん、何する気なんですか？ちょっと、何しようって言うんですか？
We're about to change the name of this story from, what the hell the name of this arc is, to Clock Tower.
冗談はやめてください。
I recognize that this was particularly unorthodox behavior, but right now this seemed like the only way to get through to her. I looked down and slowly pressed the blade against my chest. Only my body could prove with what my mind had decided. My knees were fiercely trembling, and the skin touching the tip of the blade was burning hot. I could see an image of Satoko flash before my eyes. This is very extreme. You know that, right? Like, this seems a bit excessive to prove your point. I clenched the handle of the shears in my fingers and put all my strength into them.
バカなことはやめてください。本当にやってみせることないじゃないですか。
Well, you kind of put the idea in his head, honestly.
冗談でカッコつけるならマジ怒りますよ。
俺は死ぬ気なんかねえよ。今死んでたまるかよ。サトコが苦しんでるのに放り出して死ねるかよ。
ならどうしてですか？むちゃくちゃです、ケイちゃん。
俺の本心が見たいんだろ。俺はこの程度の傷で死なねえ。サトコを助けなきゃならねえから俺は死なねえ。
I opened my eyes for a moment. Shion was trembling as she gazed at me in disbelief. Wouldn't it be something if a sizable portion of the school body was just peering out the windows right now and seeing what's going on here?
見てろよ。
After saying that, I clenched the handle tighter and pressed the blade with more force. But suddenly, the blade completely stopped moving. Well, your ribcage is probably getting in the way. When I opened my eyes, I saw Shion standing beside me, tightly grasping the blade of the shears.
シオン。
The sky was clear and blue. Only the sound of our tortured breathing echoed through the area. Eventually, Shion lifted her head and stared straight into my eyes.
わかった。信じます。ケイちゃんのサトコへの気持ち。
Again, I want to know why are your feelings towards Satoko in this timeline softened compared to how they normally are? Did some kind of reconciliation happen off screen or something? I mean, it clearly had to, and otherwise, I don't think she'd really care all that much to get involved. I just want to know what exactly happened.
おう。一人で戦うなよ。俺にも協力させてくれ、シオン。
Shion murmured that in a hoarse voice and nodded several times.
ケイちゃんを信じます。
俺もシオンを信じるよ。一緒に頑張ろうぜ。
はい。 けど次にこんな芝居がかった真似したら承知しませんからね。
Shion relaxed her expression after saying that. Then she flicked me in the forehead.
あいで
Way to kill the tension.
脅かした罰です。
I think sticking a rock down his throat would be more effective, personally. Then we smiled to each other. It felt like an exchange as comrades in arms. Before I realized it, the noisy cry of the cicadas was replaced by the cool cry of the Higurashi. Were they encouraging us to charge boldly into the battlefield despite our inferior numbers? Nah. Or maybe they were laughing at the futility of our struggle. Nah. Shion and I decided that the best way to handle Satoko's situation was to appeal to the adults close to us. So we head toward the teacher's lounge.
あら、どうしたんです前原くん。
Everything?
委員長も一緒に。何か困りごと？
Right after Chi-sensei said that, Shion immediately cut in.
申し訳ありませんが、私ミオンじゃありません。妹のシオンです。
そうですか。
Chi-sensei was unable to hide her confusion. Her reaction wasn't unreasonable. Even I had my doubts about Shion's existence for a while.
あまりそっくりだから間違えてしまいそうですね。
However, Shion pressed forward with no regard for Chi-sensei's response.
聞いてほしいことがあるんです。一刻を争う事態なんです。
When she saw the passion in Shion's eyes, Chi-sensei immediately sat upright.
北条聡子は叔父である北条哲平との生活に問題を抱えています。
穏やかではありませんね。断定できる根拠はあるのですか？
先生は聡子がずっと欠席している理由、もちろん知ってますよね。
それは皆さんにお伝えしているように病欠です。保護者からきちんと報告を受けています。
あの男が保護者？それ本気で言ってるんですか？
With Shion unwilling to shake her antagonistic demeanor, Chi-sensei continued explaining her reasoning.
噂や憶測が流れていることは先生も知っています。だからこそ現時点では冷静に状況を見極めることが適切だと考えています。
それじゃこのまま何もせずに聡子をほったらかしってことですか？
いいえ。まずは北条さんのお宅に伺って状況を率直に伺うつもりです。
And that's only gonna make the beatings even harder than they already are, sadly.
保護者ずらして丸め込むに決まってます。
シオン、落ち着け。今は先生の話を聞こう。
We were getting carried away by our childlike notion of justice. Emotions alone won't help Satoko, and yet that's pretty much what you're operating on. Quite the opposite. This is the time when realistic support is necessary. Shame you weren't thinking this like literally 10 minutes ago in the classroom. Besides, now that Chi-sensei is involved, maybe we'll move things forward a little.
先生は投げやりな態度を決め込むような人じゃない。聡子のことを真剣に考えてくれるはずだ。先生、そうですよね。
そうですね。今はあれこれ思い悩むような彼氏もいないわけですし、せめて可愛い生徒の将来については先生も一緒に考えさせてほしいと思っていますよ。
Shion finally started to smile and relax her shoulders.
わかりました。
問題となる事実が少しでも見受けられた場合は断固たる処置を取るつもりです。
Shion dubiously frowned. Chi-sensei put a hand on her shoulder to try and calm her.
時には人に頼り信じることも大切ですよ。私はそれも勇気だと思っています。
信じていいんですよね、先生。
先生が嘘ついたことありますか？
I gently shook my head. We hadn't known each other for very long, but it seemed long enough. I thought so anyway.
この件は先生に預からせてください。前原君と院長の妹さんは心配しないこと。
Chi-sensei pounded her chest as she said that, as if to say, I'll take care of everything. Though I was convinced by Chi-sensei's words at first, after witnessing the cool response of the adults, we couldn't hide our disappointment. Proper adults have developed skill at hiding their true intentions, so we can't leave everything to the adults here. We need to do something for Satoko with our own hands. Unable to stand idly by any longer, Shion and I set a course toward the Hojo house, where we'd find Satoko. Burning frustration filled my mind. I couldn't think about anything else. I moved forward like a robot, mechanically repeating the motions necessary to move my legs, driving myself forward. What am I going to do when I meet Satoko? I have no plans, no ideas. Am I going to just grab Satoko's hand and run away? Acting like a hero. In a sense, Mion may have been right about that. I know a happy ending where rash justice prevails and we all live happily ever after won't be waiting for us. Enough about that. Don't go thinking unnecessary things. I'll do what I can. That alone should be enough.
ケイちゃん
I returned to my senses after suddenly hearing my name. Looking back, Shion was standing off in the far distance.
何してんだよ、シオン。
出花をくじくようで申し訳ないんですけど。
だからなんだよ。こんなとこでグズグズやってる暇ないだろ。
念のためですけど、聡子の家の場所をご存知ですか？
Huh?
聡子の家はこっちですよ。
Shion pointed her finger in the opposite direction.
そうなのか。すまん、神社の奥のイメージが抜けなくて。
I was getting careless. What was I thinking? Continuing to walk forward without considering my destination. I was so impatient that I didn't take the time to examine my surroundings. When Shion saw my face turn red, she couldn't help but laugh.
いや、それにだ。一回自分の家に寄っておこうと思ってたし。
I really should face my mistakes with honor, like a man, but instead I ended up making excuses. What did being a man even mean in the first place? As I thought about that,
とりあえず茶でも飲んで一息入れて。喧嘩腰で乗り込んでもしょうがないだろ。なんだよ。
だってケイちゃんのお家もそっちじゃないですよね。
you're awfully directionally challenged today, aren't you, Keiichi? I took my excuses too far. What was I thinking? We're losing our fighting spirit.
笑ってしまってごめんなさい。
No, you're not.
でもケイちゃんがすごく熱い人だってことが分かりました。だからお姉はケイちゃんのこと。
ミオンがなんだ？
なんでもないです。さあ、聡子の家に急ぎましょう。私が案内しますね。
Shion beckoned me forward with a smile on her face.
なんならお手手引きましょうか。
Well, how generous.
もう勘弁してくれよ。
ケイちゃんって照れ屋ですね。
悪かったな、子供で。
いいえ、ケイちゃんの純粋さとかまっすぐなところ、私すごく羨ましいです。
なんか褒め殺しっぽいぞ。
本心ですよ。でも気をつけてくださいね。
気をつける？
後をつけられているってこともありますから。
Her warning suddenly made me feel uneasy. Couldn't be. But felt like someone was watching me from the shadows. A faint smile seemed to float out. Was that my imagination? Or... We passed through the relaxing country scenery and found the Hojo house in a clearing before a dense forest. An intense rage welled up inside me as I thought about the hardships Satoko was enduring in there. I rang the doorbell, but there was no response. An eerie silence surrounded the Hojo house. No way. It felt like a disturbing premonition.
ちょっと、そんなに乱暴に押したら壊れてしまいますよ。
I either break this doorbell or I break the man of the house. And I want to break the man of the house. Shion's advice went in one ear and out the other. Here we have it. Proof positive that Keiichi lacks a brain. My anger and restlessness drove me to ring the bell several times more. But again, there was no response. I came all the way here. I won't turn away without accomplishing anything. I've already launched myself into a bold attack.
ケイちゃん、そんなことしたら不法侵入になりますよ。
警察だろうがなんだろうが、もう関係ないさ。
So much for approaching this in a rational manner, huh? Can you guys make up your minds for more than 10 minutes on what exactly you're gonna do?
ですよね。喧嘩上等。
The kind of line I expect to see engraved on a motorcycle gang member's jacket flew out of Shion's mouth. I felt like I'd seen something I shouldn't have. But when the pressure is on, Shion looks very reliable. Shion and I took a deep breath, then headed out toward the garden. The living room curtains were swaying. It looked like the window was open. I hid myself in the shadow of the bush, then looked intently toward the swinging curtain. A gentle breeze blew through the air, and the curtain fluttered along with it. Beyond that, Satoko was inside. Satoko! I couldn't take it anymore. I got up from my position.
待ってください。
Shion stood firmly in my path to cut me off. Are you going to stop me at the last moment, Shion? Just as I opened my mouth to protest.
こういう時はレディーファーストってやつでしょ。
You want to charge headfirst into danger? Okay, be my guest.
Huh?
I was stunned for a moment by her unexpected response. Shion, on the other hand, wore a playful grin. You see, she was trying to calm me down. Indeed, I'd lose control if I didn't stay calm. So I took a deep breath to compose myself. Then, once I steadied myself, I jumped over the bush and pushed myself forward. And a moment later, I set my foot down inside.
Huh? なんでお前ら勝手に入ってきて何やっとんじゃおら
As a matter of fact, yes we do. I was confronted by Teppei's vulgar voice the moment I stepped through the curtains. I don't think he even introduced himself to you yet, did he? How do you know his name? I wasn't afraid of his threats. but I wanted to help Satoko. That was the one thing racing through my heart at the moment.
ケイチさん、
サトコ。
But just then, the door to the next room suddenly slid open, and moist cigarette smoke wafted in. He's not alone. The man in the doorway spoke without looking at us.
てっちゃん、ビールもう一本追加じゃねえや。
Inside, several clearly drunken men were sitting around a mahjong table covered in liquor. These bastards. Even though Satoko is right here on the other side of the sliding door. Why don't they care? These bastards aren't people. They're rotten thugs. Yeah, how dare they get drunk and play mahjong in the next room with a child nearby? Scoundrels! That moment I was enraged. I clenched my fists, dripping in sweat, and took a step forward. The men came out of the living room to help Teppei. Then they surrounded Shion and I.
なんね、人んちに出しゃばるもんやなかぜ。ここはてっちゃんの家なんじゃからの。切れる重大か。おお、終わっとうね。世も末じゃねえ。
Well, when we got adults like you in charge, is it any wonder that the next generation is also fucked?
何が世も末だ。お前らみたいな大人がのさばってるから、この世はどんどん腐ってくんだよ。
んじゃと？ふざけた口聞いとっと、おじさんらも黙っとうないね。一つ、仕置きしてやっとうか。
この野郎、ただじゃおかねえ。
By that point, my patience was completely exhausted. The fire burning in my heart spread to my entire body, and I swung at Teppei with lightning speed. However, I was outnumbered here. The four of them came at me all at once. Right then, I lamented that my frail, childlike physique was no match for the power of these adults.
"偉そうことヘッド!わしに盾ついたらどんな目に遭うかとことん分からせてやったね!"
Convulsive laughter filled my ears. I opened my eyes a crack. Teppei swung his fists around wildly. Don't admit defeat in a place like this. Show them you're a man, Keiichi Maebara. You don't even know what a man is. I twisted my body and put all my strength into pushing Teppei away. The force caused Teppei's body to crash into the cupboard. Teppei seemed to take a bad blow from that. He struggled with a look of rage in his eyes as he got back up. I managed to stand up somehow, but someone caught my arm and pulled me back. He tossed me down to the floor and continued beating me. I turned to look away from the source of my suffering. In the corner of the room, Shion had her arms around Satoko's shoulders, saying, it's all right, as she rubbed her back. Satoko was staring off in the distance with a vacant look in her eyes, and her mouth was hanging open. Someone was furiously knocking at the front door. Satoko's eyes opened wide as she turned toward the door. It sounded like the lock on the door was about to break open.
入江です。大丈夫ですか？
Assist! We need a doctor!
誰かいるんですか？
Was that the coach's voice? I guess that must be Irie at the door. Shion quickly got up and ran to the front door.
またんかこら! 勝手に開けたらぶち殺すぞら!
Teppei's vile voice filled the room, but his cry was in vain. Shion hastily unlocked the front door and invited the visitor inside. Then, Shion escorted Irie into the room. Hello, Doc. It's been a while. Irie was stunned by the spectacle before his eyes.
これは
Child abuse! Call the police!
おや、入江先生ですかいね。何かご用でも。わざわざこんなむさ苦しいところにおいでなすってすんませんね。
車で通りかかったのですが、お宅からものすごい音が聞こえてきまして、これは一体どういうことですか？
おみ足汚れちまったらいかんね。
No more of a mess than what you guys turned the place into.
ほら、さとこ。ぼさっとしてねえでスリッパでも何でも持ってこいや。うちには先生のお口に合うようなスタイリッシュって言うんですか。おはいそなものありゃせんけどね。遠慮なくくすねでってくださいな。
お気遣いは結構です。それより事情を聞かせていただきたい。
いやね、ちょいとこいつらが勝手に押しかけてきよってやんちゃしでかしてたんですわ。最近のガキは礼儀を知らんというか、一発にしゃらくせえ口聞いてけったいな世の中になったもんですな。
彼らが部屋を荒らしたとは私には考えられませんね。
いや、こっちもね、カッとなったと言いますか、昔かだぎな男なもんで手が出ちまうってこともね。ちょっと懲らしめてやっただけですわ。
Teppei hesitated as he said that, not wanting to make Irie upset. Fire in my chest finally started to cool off. Now that Irie is here, surely Satoko will be okay. I wouldn't put all your eggs in this basket here, Keiichi. Irie was different from the other adults. He was the kind of person who cared deeply about Satoko. Just as I thought that, I heard an unexpected word that caused me to freeze over.
なんでもないんです。
It was Satoko. Then, as I stood there in astonishment, she gazed at me with a focused expression, as if to convey that nothing else needed to be said.
サトコ、お前なんでそんなデタラメ言うんだ？
ケイイチさんとシオンさんは誤解をしていましたよ。心配なさっているようなことは一切ございませんの。だからもうお帰りになってくださいな。
サトコ、お前そんな強がり言ってる場合じゃないだろう。
聞こえませんでした？お帰りになってくださいと申し上げているのでございますわ。
Satoko's eyes were shining with even more strength as she said that to me. Her words were the complete opposite of what I expected. Thank you very much, Keiichi-san, but enough already. The corner of Satoko's mouth rose just enough to offer a vague smile. If there's nothing I can do for you, all you have to do is nod and I'll jump right into the fire. So don't ask me to stop helping you. Scrape, scrape. I finally heard a noise, a disturbing sound. When I looked back, I noticed Shion standing there. What do you got? Shion was clenching her teeth. With incredible amount of force. Ah, teeth! She's got teeth. Like trying to slice through thick cuts of meat with a butcher's knife.
前原さん、シオンさん、今日のところはおいとましましょう。ね。
On Irie's suggestion, we reluctantly left the Hojo house. Teppei's boorish laugh echoed as though to mock us. In that moment, for the first time in my entire life, I knew what it meant to hate another person. All I could think about was wishing death upon the person I hated. My heart was filled with hatred, regret, despair, and indescribable sorrow. Fishing mailed, as expected. Doesn't make it suck any less, though. Shion and I were riding in Irie's car. Relaxing classical music was playing on the radio. Yet, I couldn't hear those melodies. The only sound that echoed in my ear was Satoko's voice, saying "it's nothing," over and over. Shion was also sitting silently. I looked at the scenery out the window, but it felt like I was seeing it for the first time in a long time. What will happen to Satoko from now on? If her power is to do anything about this, how will that change the future? I know that Satoko needs help, but if we force anything on her, it would only be a temporary solution. Though it was frustrating and difficult to accept, there was little room for us to intervene in our family's problems. Plus, according to Reina, Satoko had lied to the Okinomiya Child Consultation Center in the past, which made it difficult for them to exercise any of their power. It's difficult to trust a person who has lied to you. That much is easy to understand. But without any sort of solution, no progress will ever be made. An unpleasant sensation ate at my heart as I blamed myself. The more I thought about it, the more I believed this would end in tragedy. No one had spoken a word for a while now. There was no sense putting it into words, because it hurt to remind ourselves how little we could do.
やるだけ無駄。
What are you doing here?
そう思ってるんだよね。
Oh wait a minute, is this a flashback of sorts?
みーちゃんは。
そこまでは思ってないけど、状況は優しくないよ。
That earlier conversation with Reina and Neon came to mind. Reina was throwing out harsh words in frustration, and Neon was speaking negatively like she had already given up. At the time, I was offended by the way both of them were acting, so I went with Shion to the Hojo house. But in the end, what could we do? What could I do? What difference did it make? What if what we did wasn't actually helpful for Satoko at all, and only a way of forcing our one-sided notion of goodwill upon her? As I thought that, I saw an expression of mixed feelings on Irie's face. The words he chose earlier were safe and ambiguous, clearly demonstrating that his real intentions lied elsewhere. Then, he silently looked down toward us, probably realizing that any attempt to debate it with us would be useless. After a sigh, Irie tried to console us with a few kind words.
悲しく、あまりに残酷な話ですが、私たちの決意や努力、尽力には限界があります。残酷ですが、それが事実です。納得できないという前原さんの気持ちはわかります。私だって聡子ちゃんは可愛い。誰よりも幸せになってほしいと思っています。
聡子の幸せを願うなら、あの男から引き離そうとするんじゃないんですか？監督の言ってることはめちゃくちゃです。
Unable to suppress my raging emotions, I blurted out an unreasonable response. But Irie remained calm and continued in a quiet tone.
ですが、何が彼女にとっての幸せなのか、それを他人である私たちが決めてかかるということはおこがましい。それこそ神の領域です。
神頼みなんて悠長なこと言ったら
My excitement drove me to a coughing fit, so Irie handed me a white handkerchief. As I held it close and coughed into it, sadness and regret coalescing in my chest burned at the back of my throat.
大丈夫、大丈夫ですよ。
Even though that thought irked me, making me more miserable.
俺は聡子に何もしてやれない。それが悔しくて。
I suddenly began to shed tears.
大丈夫。大丈夫ですよ。理不尽な痛みに対して人間ができる唯一の癒しは感情的になることだけです。前原さんが羨ましいです。許されるなら私のこの手で全てを。
監督？
何を言ってるんだろう。私にはそんな資格などすでにないというのに。
Irie made a self-torturing smile. I thought I could see a sharp glimmer in his eyes through his glasses.
何の話をしてるんですか？
Satoshi, I assume?
前原さんには真実を打ち明けます。聡子ちゃんがあのような環境に置かれながらそれを排除する努力をしない理由、それは贖罪なんです。
Atonement.
聡子ちゃんはサトシ君がいなくなってしまったことを自分のせいだと思っています。だから叔父との生活を耐え忍ぶことで罪に対する罰を受けていると考えてしまっているんです。
Insane. Now that Satoshi has disappeared, that bastard can just do whatever he pleases? Why should Satoko have to shoulder that sin? She didn't do anything.
そんなことをしても誰も喜ばない。
Suddenly, Shion cried out.
誰一人喜ばない。サトシ君がいれば、サトシ君さえ。
Huge teardrops scattered as Shion began sobbing. I couldn't think of anything to say to her. Even if I said something supportive, there was nothing I could do to back it up. How are we any different from the adults who refused to say anything, or Mion who declared it all to be useless? Feelings and alone are useless. They have no meaning unless they lead to action. The only reliable way to help Satoko is by raw force. However, that would be an extremely dangerous method. Still, emotions alone are insufficient to fight this. The dice have already been thrown. I can't leave Satoko's fate in the hands of dice thrown by someone else. In that case, I should shake the dice myself. It's do or die, Keiichi Maebara. I rolled an invisible die inside my hand, then held it tight. Going all in. Do or die. Whether I get lucky, or whether things go poorly, this may end with a dead man. As that thought filled my mind, I couldn't help but tremble. My heart pounded, exposed to a mysterious fear. The car continued pushing forward through the dark abyss. I couldn't see any lights. I couldn't hear anything. Just the sound of my heartbeat echoing inside my head. The front windshield was beginning to cloud over from the humidity. The entire village was covered in a thick fog. The car's headlights could scarcely illuminate the dull gray surface of the road. I felt like I was being watched. Oh, great. Is this syndrome starting to kick in now? A pair of glimmering eyes were silently coming closer, glaring right down at me. It can't be. Calm down. Calm down. I just need to keep looking forward. Forward. Even though I don't know my destination. A sharp sound rang out, like nails scraping long glass, as the car suddenly came to a halt. I unhooked my seatbelt and stepped outside. Then I looked out in the direction of the headlights. What the hell? A pool of stagnant water. The swamp in front of me looked bottomless. I let out a brief cry and immediately fled the area. When I turned to look back, the car was already gone. Beyond it was nothing but darkness. A warm breeze blew across the back of my neck. As I stumbled forward, I found a fork in the road. I had to choose. Advance forward. Make a decision. Choose. Advance. Decide. Choose. Advance. Decide. Choose. Advance. Decide. Yeah, he's definitely losing it.
前原さん
A sudden voice caught me off guard.
大丈夫ですか
Nope!
ずいぶんうなされていましたよ
Irie was in the driver's seat, anxiously examining my face. Then I remembered. I was still in Irie's car, on the way home after dropping Shion off in Okinomiya. Before I knew it, I must have fallen asleep. A nightmare, huh? I hope that's all it was. Am I really awake? It doesn't feel like it. My body still doesn't feel as lively as usual. I raised my inclined seat, drenched with sweat from my back. Looking out the window, we had already passed through town and were about to reach Inazawa.
すいません。ちょっと疲れただけで。
無理もないですねさっきは大変でしたから
I recalled the words as Shion cried out. It doesn't help anyone. If only Satoshi-kun was still here. Satoshi Hojo. That name echoed through my mind like a curse. I no longer cared if I got cursed. I'd gladly sacrifice myself in order to help Satoko.
監督、サトシってどんなやつだったんですか
Irie furrowed his brow for a moment after hearing that. Then after a brief sigh, he spoke softly.
サトシ君が家出してしまったことは話しましたよね
以前に監督から。ただ、サトシの話題になると、みんなはごまかすから。
そうですねこの村の人にとっては少し因縁めいたところがあるのでしょう
本当に家出なんですか
それはどういう意味ですか
Irie gave me a piercing glance as I asked that.
いや、そんな気がして。
まさかお社様のたたりとでも
よくわかんないです。
Irie lightly raised the corner of his lip. Was he laughing? It was hard to tell. Probably reflecting on the lies he has to tell you right now, if I had to guess.
監督は信じてるんですかその、お社様のたたりを。
私は一応科学に準ずる職業についていますからねでもこの村に来て少しだけ超自然的存在を身近に感じてきました
The dog certainly does have a unique presence about her, to be fair.
おや霧が出てきましたね
Irie cut off the conversation to turn on the wipers. They drew a milky white semicircle along the front windshield. Floating on, wiping off. Floating on, wiping off. Floating on, wiping off. That cycle repeated indefinitely. The sound constantly repeated at regular intervals, like a second hand on a clock. And the periodic rhythm was getting on my nerves. Indeed, that sound was a constant reminder that I was on a time limit. time to make a decision was rapidly approaching. Even if I ran away, it would follow me. I felt like I was lost in an endless maze, and I suddenly began to shiver.
話が脱線してしまいましたが、サトシ君の話はシオンさんに聞いた方がいいかもしれません。
え？
私よりシオンさんの方がよくご存知だと思います。
シオンが？
Irie gave me a gentle look as he nodded.
シオンさんとサトシ君はとても仲が良かった。ある意味、そうですね。お互いを大切に思い合う関係。だからこそ妹のサトコちゃんに対しての思い入れもきっと強いんでしょう。
Shame that wasn't the case in some of the earlier main arcs. Shion and Satoshi were. So as far as Shion was concerned, Satoko was her beloved partner's one and only little sister. Then, was that why she was trying so desperately hard to help Satoko? There did seem to be some connection between Satoko and Shion. Despite being a member of the Sonozaki family, her attitude towards Satoko's predicament was clearly different from Mion's.
サトシ君がいれば。
Is your heart being squeezed by thoughts of Satoshi-kun as you shouted that, Shion? Am I just an outsider here? I couldn't shake off a nagging feeling of jealousy. Shion and Satoko were both deeply tied to Satoshi, and there was no place for me in that circle. But Satoshi is the one who ran away from home and abandoned Satoko. I should just forget about a coward like that. Satoshi isn't here anymore. But I am. Me. I'm here. Shion's grief-stricken scream crawled into my ears again, and it wouldn't go away. If only Satoshi-kun was still here. But he's already gone. Shion, stop saying that. If only Satoshi-kun was still here. That bastard abandoned both you and Satoko, right? He threw you away. If only Satoshi-kun was still here. 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 Those words repeated over and over, like an incantation.
Tadaima.
As I muttered that, I immediately made up my way up to the second floor.
おかえりなさい。ちょっとケイイチ、もうご飯よ。あらやだ、どうしたの？暗い顔しちゃって。
I heard my mother's harsh, thoughtless voice coming from behind my back. I want to be left alone. I don't want to talk to anyone. After violently slamming the door, I didn't even bother turning on the light and dropped down into my futon where it was. The tension finally began to die down. I felt the strength draining from my body. I don't want to think about anything anymore. I rolled over and pulled the blanket out from underneath me. Suddenly, I felt pain coursing through my fingertips. What the hell just happened? Is this blood? I strained my eyes to look more closely in the dark. My nails were covered in dry blood, and it was getting all over the bed. What the fuck just happened? Tepe stomped on my fingernails when I was down on the floor. I guess it was a powerful attack. You were wounded that whole time? Damn. When I closed my eyes, an image of Satoko steadfastly refusing my help floated in front of me. It's frustrating. What can I do? I gave up and ran away, didn't I? Will my struggling only cause Satoko even more pain?
ちくしょう！
Bang. I slammed my fist into the wall as I cursed at my surroundings. Everything felt hollow. I didn't care anymore. An endless feeling of helplessness overwhelmed me. A restlessness nagged at me. A sense of danger caught up to me. I clung to what little self-respect I had left. And then I arrived at my destination. Despair. I noticed a shadow lurking in the darkness. It felt like someone was staring at me. It was just my imagination, of course. But I couldn't laugh it off right now. I pulled the blanket over my head, curled it around my body, closed my eyes. I wanted to forget everything and fall asleep.
誰？
I began to doubt my ears after suddenly hearing a strange sound, and I finally called out to it. Grating laughter echoed through the area.
誰だって言ってんだろうが！
I thrust my blanket away and vigorously got up. I heard a creak as I made my way over to the door. The bright lights in the hallway blinded
ケイ
me.
チ？何よ大声出して。
When I opened my eyes a crack, I noticed my mother standing in front of me with a concerned expression.
なんだ？母さんか？
I suddenly began to feel exhausted. What was I getting so nervous about?
あら、もう寝てたの？ご飯の時間だっていうのにまったく。神気臭い顔しちゃって。せっかくいい顔に産んであげたんだからシャキッとしなさい。
うるさいな。食欲ないんだからもうほっといてよ。
バカねあんたは。食欲ない時にこそ食べるのよ。人間ご飯食べてりゃとりあえず死なないんだから。
But we should only eat if we're hungry.
心が消耗してる時はせめて体がしっかり力をつけて引っ張ってあげるの。落ち込んでる時はいつもの2倍は食べなきゃダメよ。
That's a good way to put on pounds.
3度のご飯をおいしくいただく。これが体も心も健康に保つ秘訣なんだから。お母さんで実証済み。
At getting pounds, maybe. Mom insisted on her folk remedies, then turned on the lights and opened the window. As I watched her from behind, I thought to myself that she was a really hard-working mother. Indeed, there was no greater love than smiling and chatting together as a family. It's such a minor thing, but when it happens every day, it really adds up. I always believed that these days would last forever. Satoko probably thought the same thing. Until 3 years ago. It's like suddenly falling into a trap, where your everyday life begins to collapse. And it could happen to me too.
わかったから。はい、ごめん。じゃあおやすみ。
I wrapped myself in the blanket again to stave off Mom's interference.
何言ってるの？起きなさい。レナちゃんが来てるのよ。
Oh? Reina? When I made my way to the entrance, I found Reina quietly standing there.
レナ、こんな時間にどうしたんだ？
ちょっと。
何かあったのか？
Reina bit her lip instead of answering my question.
レナ、
血。
Reina was staring at the blood on the tip of my fingers. I never washed them off. They're still covered in blood. Then, before I had a chance to say something, Reina muttered to herself.
あいつの血も赤いのかな？
Yes. I suddenly began to tremble. I felt like Reina's eyes lit up and read for a moment.
レナちゃん悪いわね。こんなにたくさんお裾分けしてもらって。
Mom came over to the entryway holding several large boxes.
煮物たくさん作りすぎちゃったんです。いっぱい食べてください。塩分控えめですから。は
Reina quickly changed her expression to show Mom her usual smile.
そうそう。前にいただいたコロッケ。ほんと美味しかったわ。
本当ですか？よかった。
うちの人ったら20個ペロリと平らげちゃったのよ。
そんなに喜んでくれたらとっても嬉しいです。
Reina's usual smile as she made small talk was bright enough to make flowers bloom. But was I mistaken about the Reina I saw a moment ago?
それじゃあレナはそろそろ帰りますね。
Reina said nothing to that. Reina said to that to bring the conversation to a close, but she flashed me a sharp glare as she said it. It was like an unspoken agreement.
母さん、俺レナを送ってくるよ。
そうね、夜も遅いし。それじゃあレナちゃんまたね。気をつけてね。
おやすみなさい、おばさま。
Reina stepped out the front door without waiting for me to tie my shoes. After I finished putting my shoes on, I turned to Mion.
あのさ、
どうしたのケイイチ？
あんまうまく言えないけどさ、今まで飯とか作ってくれてありがとな。それじゃあ行ってきます。
え？ちょっと突然何なの？明日お嫁に行く花嫁みたいなこと言っちゃって。レナちゃんとこに婿入り？
ああ、もううるさい。
Feeling overwhelmed with embarrassment, I avoided making eye contact with Mom as I ran out the front door. Mom was tilting her head to the side in confusion. But I couldn't help but speak up. I wanted to thank her earnestly for her role in my peaceful everyday life, so I thought it would be good to say something. I began walking swiftly to catch up with Reina. She was far ahead of me, but the distance between us gradually diminished. Reina looked straight ahead, pushing herself through the darkness like I wasn't even there. A light emerged from the darkness ahead. A streetlight illuminated the road up ahead. I noticed a swarm of moths gathering around the streetlight. Scrape, scrape. I heard the moths' wings getting burned as they touched the fluorescent light, over and over. We reached a fork in the road. Reina turned and started walking in the wrong direction without a moment of hesitation.
おい、レナの家は逆だろ？おいって。
Reina remained silent and continued at her current pace. Was there something in this direction? A hatchet, perhaps? I had no choice but to follow Reina. It's the dump. Finally, we arrived at our destination. The mountain of garbage at the dam construction site. The area off in the darkness was packed with garbage dumped here illegally, and a disquieting atmosphere began to drift in. After all, the corpse from that murder 5 years ago was found here. Even in the daytime, being here ran a chill down my spine. So, being here alone with Reina right now was, honestly, quite terrifying. Reina advanced into the garbage mountain without hesitation, leaving me behind.
ちょっと待てよ、レナ。暗いから危ないって。怪我するぞ。
Reina clenched her teeth and pushed ahead, as if my words didn't reach her ears at all. Reina climbed over a huge industrial refrigerator and disappeared on the other side of the mountain.
おい、レナ！
My voice echoed vainly in the otherwise silent area. It was total silence. The surrounding area was bathed in a murky darkness.
返事くらいしろよ！レナ！
but Reina didn't respond. Rustle, rustle. Something stirred inside the mountain of garbage. A chill suddenly ran through me. Starting to feel lost, I chased after Reina. I did my best to follow in the direction Reina went, but it was so steep, I had my doubts I'd be able to climb it. Reina must be hiding incredible strength in that slender body of hers. Oh yes, she is. Though I was out of breath, I somehow finished climbing to the top of the garbage mountain. Standing at the top, I could see a faint light. It seemed to be coming from a station wagon buried deep in the scrap.
レナ、そこにいるのか?
As I approached the station wagon, I cautiously looked in through the sliding door window. Despite its crude appearance, the interior of the station wagon was neatly organized. It was decorated with cushions Reina would find cute, and there was a stuffed toy on display. I heard a faint sound just outside my line of sight, and turned to find a huge-eyed hamster in a small basket. Is this Reina's secret hideout?
レナ、いるんだろ? 入るぞ。
I pulled the sliding door open and found Reina sitting on a mattress in the back. Her eyes were open wide, gazing at the ceiling.
レナ、俺に話があるんだろ? だったら、話してくれよ。聞かせてほしい。
Reina slowly turned in my direction.
ここはね、辛い時とか悲しい時、寂しい時に、ここに来るの。だって、ここには誰も来ないから。誰もいなければ、ひどいことされたり、嫌なこと言われたりすることもないでしょ？一人でいると、安心なんだ。
そんなことを言うなよ。俺たちがいるじゃないか。俺たち仲間同士だろ。辛い時は頼っていいんだからな。
圭一くん、ドラマの主人公みたいなセリフ言うんだね。安っぽいよ。
Oof.
圭一くん、いつもさとこちゃんは仲間だって言ってるよね。なのに、さとこちゃんは一人ぼっちでどん底にいる。圭一くんは幸せな家庭の人だもんね。だからきっとわからないんだよ。失うことの痛みを。
Reina grabbed her hair and tugged at it with every ounce of strength in her body. An entire bundle of hair came out and fell to the ground. Good
とって
God,
も
girl.
痛いんだよ。痛いんだよ。
There was nothing I could say to her. She hit the nail on the head. Even though we were friends, that meant nothing for Satoko right now. I felt ashamed of myself for speaking so passionately about friendship. Arguments and lip service were simply not enough to change reality. I felt frustrated by how helpless and cowardly I was. But at the same time, I felt like I was being crushed by my fear and anxiety. I heard the sound of the trash falling apart. A towering mountain built from a mass of human greed. It almost sounded like a scream from someone under attack.
レナ、俺さ。
Reina's eyes were wide open, filled with tears. The tears slowly dribbled down her cheeks, then dripped to the ground below.
レナ、
I looked more closely at Reina's vacant expression. Then she quietly stared into my eyes. Reina took a deep breath to collect herself.
圭一くん、レナね。
I nodded while looking Reina directly in the eyes.
レナね。もう、 圭一君とはお別れしなきゃならないの。
Huh? Goodbye.
もう二度と会えなくなるから。レナは圭一君の前から消えてしまうから。
The hell are you talking about?
さようなら。それだけはちゃんと言いたかったんだ。
Farewell.
レナ、何言ってんだよ。さよならってなんだよ。急にそんなこと言われても。
Whatever you're going to do to Teppei, don't do it, please.
レナもお別れは悲しい。けどね、さよならなの。
待てよ。一体何があったんだよ。なんで何も言ってくれないんだよ。どうして一人で抱え込むんだよ。
Feeling restless, I grabbed Reina by the shoulders at full strength. Reina looked up at the ceiling without changing her expression.
さよならなんて言うなよ。さよならなんて。
My throat was tightening, and tears were beginning to leak out. I was about to suffocate. I couldn't bear it any longer, so I fell down onto Reina. Reina gently stroked my hair like a baby. Then she whispered softly in my ear.
私、鉄平を殺すね。
Not quite the direction I expected this story to go, to be honest. Didn't think Reina was gonna get involved in this matter. Anyway, I think this episode has gone on long enough, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop things here. Hopefully this won't be a repeat of last time, where it turns out the finale of this story arc is just literally right around the corner, and then by the time I start the next episode, it'll only take me like 10 or 20 something minutes here to get to that ending, and then, well, boom, it's done and over with. But we'll see, I guess. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this latest episode of the Higurashi When They Cry console arcs. If you did and you want to see more content from me, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I'll see you all next time for the unfortunate conclusion that we seem to be heading towards. Take care.